Hey, hello, welcome to my Hima-ten retrospective. Hooray! As you probably guessed, this is just a stapling together of all the sections and all of my jump reviewing videos where I talked about Hima-ten. Basically, when Hima-ten ended, I remarked that it was the longest series so far that I had covered from start to finish in these volumes. And that made me start wondering, okay, how long total did I spend talking about Hima-ten? And then I thought, well, if I'm going to go to all the effort of figuring that out, I might as well chop out all of those segments and string them together into one big video. How much harder could that be? Well, it turns out it was actually very tedious and very annoying, and it took me like an hour to do, but I did it, and I'm kind of glad I did, because even though I didn't like sit and watch the whole thing again, I did kind of like click around and sample my own opinions on the series over the 2 year period that it ran. And it made me realize that my feelings on it were a lot more up and down than I remembered. By the end, I was feeling quite positive about it, and I kind of back extrapolated into believing that I probably was always pretty positive about it. But you'll see as you click around and skim through this, or watch on double speed, or whatever the hell it takes to get through this long ass video, you'll realize I was pretty down on it at times. At times, it seemed like it was really succumbing to the worst impulses of the genre, going for fan service, forced drama, fake out confessions, progress baiting, misunderstanding based plot lines. All the hallmarks of rom-coms that really get tedious, really get off the rails, really start being, a low light in the magazine. And I think the story of Hima-ten is one of overcoming the odds. Stupidity lay on all sides, but they took the straight and narrow path, always respecting the characters, always prioritizing a sense of like emotional maturity, always, taking care to balance out elements of chaos or misunderstanding with good communication and reconciliation and some really cathartic scenes of togetherness. So yeah, enjoy this long video. And I think, I don't know, maybe in the future I'll make more of these. Like I said, the novelty here was just that it was the longest series where I could do this, where I could cover all 96 chapters. But I could go back and do it for some of the shorter series that we've read the entirety of together. I think that would be kind of fun. We'll see, we'll see. I at least made the effort of like compiling all of the source videos. So that's one big tedious step I don't have to do again. Let me know in the comments if you want to see like Star of Beethoven complete retrospective, Psych House complete retrospective, some of these other kind of forgotten gem series. And if you're watching this for some reason and you haven't read Hima-ten, like I said before, I think this series was a success in the end. I think this series rose above a lot of the worst examples of rom-com and jump, and managed to, just by being a pretty normal, pretty nice, not stupid one, make its mark as like a really pleasant and fun read with a lot of cute characters and cute scenes. So check it out. Or watch this entire video, and then you might not have to. Okay, bye. Alright, let's talk about the new series that debuted in Jump this month. Hima-ten? Hima-ten? Yeah, Hima-ten. Te. I'll give you a little bit of manga history here. Back in 2019, there was this series called Gal Cleaning, about kind of a milquetoast, unassuming, nervous young man who, through various circumstances I can't remember, ends up being the cleaner of the house of his really over-the-top, flamboyant, obnoxious gal classmate. And you're like, okay, sure, that's a pretty typical premise. You get to learn about cleaning because you're kind of cleaning alongside him. There's a lot of fan service. It's pretty goofy. And you're like, yeah, that sounds like manga. That sounds like a manga that would be made. And then everything went off the fucking rails. The story I heard is that the mangaka became like really sick of writing this series and wanted to quit, but because of certain like contractual things, he'd be in trouble if he just said no more gal cleaning. So instead, he purposefully sabotaged and tanked the manga so it would be canceled. And the way in which he did it is like quite literally unspeakable. Like, I just don't want to talk about it because it is like so gross and horrific and stupid that probably you just shouldn't ever find out. So gal cleaning lasted another 2 or 3 chapters in that state, or maybe it went on for even longer. Now I'm kind of thinking it was like 5 or 6. But it went along on its death march, its suicide march, and then was mercifully killed. And yeah, it got so bad. There was kind of like 2 waves of him trying to get it canceled too, now that I remember. One where it was just like really stupid, over the top, really inappropriate fan service. And then it got worse. But now in 2024, a very, very similar premise. This kind of unassuming young man, he's not, over the top shy or anything, but certainly foreign to the world of fashionable young ladies, who does home cleaning on the side to make money, now has to tackle the humongous mess made by our other main character, who is a fashion icon and has her own makeup brand and is a celebrity in the world of high schoolers, who lives in an absolute pigsty in secret. So they form this secret relationship where he's helping her out and cleaning and making her lunches. But at school, they have to act like they don't know each other and keep this whole relationship a secret. Of course, he also has a crush on another girl, forming this potential love triangle that I'm sure we're going to get into. And yeah, gal cleaning is back and better than ever. I think this series is actually doing pretty good. I think the art style is really, really nice. I think the premise is pretty stupid, but, that's par for the course with rom-coms. Basically, when this was announced, I thought, oh, I get it. They have a good rom-com, Blue Box, but what Jump really needs is a stupid harem fan-servicey rom-com, which hasn't really been in the magazine to any serious extent since Ayakashi Triangle, I guess, was the last big one. Last one I can remember, at least. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be the stupid rom-com. But it's actually not that stupid. There's a lot of kind of consideration for the characters. There hasn't been like any fan service at all yet, which is shocking. And it seems like they really kind of want to explore the premise in some depth instead of just making it an endless barrage of coincidentally inappropriate situations and blah, blah, blah. I mean, there is a bit of that too, of course, to build up the tension of the love triangle and everything, but it's much, much less stupid than I expected. What I would love to see this series expand more into is the actual cleaning and housework itself. I think if they just have every chapter honing in on this love triangle and these romantic mishaps and stuff, it's going to get stupid. Because you just can't do that every week and just constantly tease a will they, won't they, without it getting, like, really, all the rom-com cliches will come out at that point. But in a manner similar to Blue Box, if you have another genre that you're working into it, and you can kind of switch back and forth between those modes, then I think the series can have some real longevity and a lot more appeal. So I want this series to be counterbalanced between these sorts of romantic escapades with chapters where the primary focus is like, oh my gosh, he has to clean the sink. What's the best way to clean the sink? And give you real, down-to-earth lifestyle tips on how to take care of a house. Now, am I saying that in part because I have a hard time doing a lot of those chores and I'd like to know how to do them better and more effectively and more consistently? Absolutely. But I really think that's the sort of thing a series like this needs to give it a lot of depth. But yeah, I'm liking it okay. I'll give it a B. Nothing has happened so far that I was like, wow, that's some really innovative, inventive writing. But at the same thing, nothing has happened so far that I was like, wow, that's stupid. So good stuff, good stuff. All right, Hima-ten. This is our second month with our new rom-com series. Last month, I gave it a kind of like dismissive interpretation where I was like, oh, this is going to be the stupid fan service laden rom-com, since Blue Box is way too prestigious and serious and respectful of its characters. But so far, Hima-ten has also been a lot more respectful of its characters and kind of heartfelt and less stupid than I thought it would be. Nothing really that stupid has happened yet. Neither has there been very much fan service. There's a couple instances, but generally, yeah, they're like keeping it sane, keeping it smart, you know, doing the things that actually tell a compelling story instead of whatever you would expect from a fan service rom-com. I will say that it feels like the series, much more than something like Nisekoi or We Never Learn, this is being written with consideration of a potential early axe, which I think is smart, not just because then you're not left with a stupid, unsatisfying ending, but because the story that you're telling by trying to kind of get through all the beats as quickly as possible is a lot more interesting than the one that you try to like drip feed with an aim to have like a 300 chapter run. To that point, they've made it pretty clear where everybody's feelings lie right off the bat. They've provided situations that kind of instigate what you imagine the central conflicts are going to be right off the bat, and are actually taking steps to resolve it right off the bat. And I appreciate that. I think it's made it a lot more enjoyable to read, and I think it just shows a lot of consideration and respect for the characters who, so far, have been pretty likable. So I'm going to say I'm, like, quite optimistic on this one, but it's still a cautious optimism, because as soon as they get a whiff of long-term serialization, or as soon as the author runs out of ideas, or as soon as they need a bump in popularity, it could get so stupid so fast. And I think it would be even more painful knowing that it wasn't this stupid to start with if suddenly we're back to, oh, you confessed, I fell asleep. Oh, I was about to confess, but a baseball flew through the window. Oh, you have a childhood friend? I have 3 childhood friends that I didn't tell you about yet. And they're all girls, and they're all naked, and they all love me. It could get, like, every trope is still waiting in the wings to swing down and beat this series over the head with a baseball bat. We are not out of the woods yet, folks. All the ingredients are there for a very, very stupid series indeed. I think it's just kind of a pleasant miracle that they've been able to hold off on that for so long. And look, I should make this clear. If it does get that stupid, that doesn't actually mean I'm going to start disliking it, okay? I don't want to come across as some sort of elitist that's above a stupid fan service rom-com. I enjoy a good stupid fan service rom-com now and again. I just think the series could actually be something more. And it's just that sort of jarring de-evolution that I want to avoid. But I don't know. Manga is all about meeting it where it is, I'm sure. No matter what, we can find a way to enjoy this one. The art style's nice, the characters are fun. It's good stuff. I'm gonna give it a B+. I'm hoping that it will get still more interesting, maybe still more unique, and I'm still holding out for more actual practical life skills advice. Like, there is a chapter here where she's embarrassed that she can't cook very well, and yet she's going to have to cook in class, and she's set super high expectations for herself. So they spend a little time learning how to cook a good Hamburg steak, and there was like a little bit of involvement in the actual task itself, which I really enjoyed. A little bit of focus on what this actually means to the characters and stuff, but not as much as I would have liked. Okay, next we got Hima-ten. Hima-ten I was actually pretty impressed by so far. I was like, they seem to have a lot of respect for the characters. The premise is extremely cliche, but it's fine. It's not like embarrassing or stupid. And basically, I just kept waiting for it to get stupid. And this month, it really started tipping over to the stupid side. Um, it started nice, with our main character and his crush going on, which was pretty much a date, and it was sweet and kind, and I think expressed the characters well and, respected them. Same with a chapter more focused on Himari. Again, it kind of felt like they were building up multiple sides to her character in a way that I thought was nice. And although there was a little bit of fan service, I was like, okay, this is, at least it's sort of like contextualized. It didn't seem like super out of the blue just for fan service. But it was a little bit, and I was kind of like, eh. And then, there's more sort of middling chapters, whatever. And then, this is kind of the moment I was waiting for. They introduced the third girl, and she has big boobs. And I was like, okay, there we go. Now, it's all downhill from here. I think by the end of the year, we'll be up to like 5 girls. We'll have another even bigger boobs character, perhaps. The fan service started becoming more apparent. And even more insulting than that, we just kind of had confirmation of like, and yes, all these girls are in love with him. Why? It doesn't matter why. He's nice to them. That's all it takes. Did you know if you do 3 favors for a girl, she has to like you? It is written into the Japanese constitution. And it's like, it's just so trite. It's just so uninteresting. I felt like we were kind of entering a new era of rom-coms in Jump with Blue Box. But this one is old school. And honestly, sure. I think this sort of fan servicey rom-com is an institution in Jump. It has been for decades. And it's not like I'm mad that they're running another one. Of course they were eventually going to run another one. I thought I was at a point in my life where I was done reading these, but then I started this silly project of reading all of Weekly Shonen Jump every week. And so I'm reading another one. And that is what it is, but it doesn't mean I have to love it. I'll give it a B-. Because I think there's still some strong moments. I think the art is quite nice, and it hasn't gotten as stupid as a lot of them in the past have. It is what it is. Next we have Hima-ten. So I remember I was like, well, it's not stupid yet. That was like my big praise for Hima-ten for the first few months. It's stupid now. It's crossed the bridge of no return. Well, maybe not no return, but it's crossed a very long bridge and then burned it behind it. So it's gonna have to do some serious swimming if it's gonna return to the non-stupid zone. But that's okay. Weekly Shonen Jump has a long, long history of stupid fan servicey rom-coms, and now we have another one. The magazine had been without one for a little bit, and here it is. As soon as they introduced, I have a Kohai that's also a model, and she has really big boobs, I was like, all right, well, that's it. And sure enough, hey, guess what? She conveniently moved here. Hey, guess what? She has a crush on you. And guess what? You're gonna have to clean her house too, and so we are just in full-on harem mode. Expect chapters alternating the girls having somewhat emotional, cathartic moments, but mostly just stupid fan service interludes, with each girl in sequence over and over and over again, with no progress and no hope for progress or anything, and then maybe a 4th and 5th girl get thrown in the mix, who knows? And just sort of on and on like that until the series is canceled, and we just rush into a confession in the last 5 chapters. I have seen the future, and the future is grim for Hima-ten. But it's, like, fine. I mean, the art is nice, there's some funny gags, and when they do some of these heartfelt moments, like this month had a nice chapter about what it really means to confess your feelings, and what courage means in that context, and what sort of self-actualization do you want to do before you share how you feel with someone else? And I was like, all right, this isn't bad. Like, this is not stupid. There's actual heart here. There's actual consideration for the characters. There's some actual kind of psychology and sociology on display that is not stupid. So there's moments, but the moments I think will become more and more infrequent as the great wave of fan service subsumes everything else. So, we'll give it a B minus. It's not in the failing grades yet. It's not in the I detest having to read this zone yet by any stretch, but it's certainly getting stupider. Hima-ten. I gotta say, it was better this month than the month previous, I think. They were swerving into kind of the, like, very stupid harem fan service zone when they introduced, like, her kohai that has big boobs. And it's like, wow, she's like a bikini model. We'll definitely show you that, don't worry. I was like, okay, they've jumped the shark. This is the point of no return. But they're trying to wrangle it back. They're doing a school trip arc that the kohai is not invited to. It's back to the kind of the main two girls who are a little more reasonable, a little less kind of stupid harem logic-y. And some of the scenes have been nice, Basically, our main girl, is her name Hima? Himarine? Yeah, is trying to set up the guy with this other girl. She knows that they have a mutual crush on one another, that she just wants them to have the opportunity to be alone, to confess their feelings, blah, blah, blah. But then, of course, fate keeps interweaving, and she starts to realize her own feelings for this guy, and starts to maybe act in her own self-interest and feel bad about it. And it's like, oh, okay, it's still kind of goofy harem stuff, but there's, like, some emotional sincerity to it. It's born from caring about the characters. It's born from the characters, actually having kind of complex feelings that aren't just, like, unadulterated love for this one guy for no reason. So it's like, okay, like, I'm not gonna say they're cooking yet, but they haven't thrown away all the ingredients. The ingredients are still on the table. It's just up to them to decide what to do with them. We're going to remain cautiously optimistic. We'll give it a B minus. None of this stuff has been good, per se. It hasn't really blown me away or moved me. But it also stopped getting stupider and stupider, so I'll praise it for that. Next, we're going to talk about Hima-ten. I felt like this one was really catching the stupid disease because they had swung into full harem mode, full fan service mode, and it's like the enemy is at the gate. Feels like we are very likely to fully succumb into that mode. And it's like, it is what it is. I've read plenty of stupid rom-coms in my day. I don't mind reading another one. It's fine. And it's not like I ever thought, wow, this has so much potential to be a really meaningful, powerful series. It's like, nah, I kind of knew it was going to become this again. But I will say, despite all that, this month had some nice moments. Mostly centered around the school trip arc. Each of our main heroines gets moments of intimacy and self-reflection and feeling articulation to self around our male MC. And there are some nice moments. I mean, it's like, if you can't have at least that small character moments where you really feel like there's been some heart put into it, that the author truly cares about these characters, that the author's truly trying to make them lovable, and that they do endear themselves to you in some way. If you don't have that, you have nothing. And if you do have that, you can survive a whole lot of other nonsense, because those moments are still just quite nice. So yeah, there is a lot of rom-com nonsense. The accidental kiss because you two fell down. Stupid. Silly thing of, oh, if she's wearing this makeup, maybe it means she likes you. Oh, but was she just wearing it because her lips were chapped and she didn't have chapstick? Oh ho. Just this kind of like meaningless encoding of moments that, rather than just sort of letting emotions speak for themselves, or even letting the characters speak for themselves, you just kind of have this like complex encodifying of very particular signals and stuff. I guess to simplify it, or to kind of make more relevant to the reader, these little encoded moments that the reader can pick up on, that the characters don't pick up on. And then similarly, there's also a whole lot of like interruption garbage, where it's like, oh, the character is about to reach some sort of a romantic epiphany, confess, at least broach a topic, and then boom, distraction, boom, the stargazing is suddenly over for some reason, boom, somebody's phone rings, like that kind of nonsense. It's like, I say, oh, I've read so many of these, I don't mind reading another. But every time it's frustrating. Every time it's still frustrating. And it's frustrating on the visceral level of like, dang, I'm rooting for these guys. I hope they can convey their feelings. And then frustrating on the meta level of like, you couldn't come up with anything better. Weren't you reading Blue Box? It appears in the same magazine as you. They've never pulled this bullshit. They've always come up with an actual, like, emotionally grounded, reasonable, character-driven explanation for why conversations get misunderstood or cut short, of why characters struggle to convey their full feelings. It's not just a series of convenient inconveniences. I don't know. At the end, there was a nice chapter where they kind of return to this core premise of him cleaning up her house, which has really not been, like, relevant very often. So it's nice to kind of acknowledge that and show some progression there. And there was actually some kind of cute moments that made me again think, okay, there is some love being put into these characters. This isn't just checking boxes. This isn't just going through the motions. It's just like 80% that. So we'll give it a B-. It is what it is. Oh, Hima-ten. It's not like I had high hopes for this series, but it's just sort of like that feeling of like grim confirmation where it just keeps going in the direction that you expected, but were hoping to be surprised. What I've noticed, too, is that with these sorts of harem romances, certain girls become frontrunners in the fandom, that the fans just like them the most. And then without real consideration of, like, the plot or the actual character dynamics that they've established or anything like that, the mangaka really shifts gears to just insert that character more and more and more. And that's happening already. It's the Kana series now. Kana is everywhere. All 3 chapters this month had major Kana focus, major Kana fan service. It is what it is. We knew what we were getting into. Jump hasn't run a stupid fan service harem in a while, and here it is. And it honestly, it could still be worse. Like, the fan service is, like, pretty blatant, but I would say it's not, like, rude. And the distinction I make there is, like, the fan service doesn't feel like it is at it's like humiliating for the characters. It's not like, how do I put this? There was like the mishap era of fan service, right? Where the fan service resulted from the girl characters having a mishap, a wardrobe malfunction, or oh, I was changing in here, didn't so-and-so tell you? Ah, no, they didn't. Or, uh-oh, we're gonna get in trouble. I need to, like, hide with you under the blankets. Things that were, like, outside of the girl's control. Where part of the fan service, honestly, and this is kind of reflecting certain misogynist elements in culture, where that it's, like, more erotic and more thrilling because the girl didn't really want it, you know? Which is gross. It's very gross. And describing it like this in isolation, it really makes it apparent kind of how gross it was. But that was, like, the standard for these sorts of fan service rom-coms. That's where the fan service would come from. This, I really want to note, in a very deliberate twist, the twist, I don't know if it's the right word, but in a progression of the genre, almost all the fan service is entirely within the agency of the girls. It's like there are fashion models. She's getting bikini photos taken for a magazine. That's what we see. That's the fan service. She wants to dress up like a maid to reward the MC as a little, tantalizing treat for him. Now, are these things misogynist in their own way? The fact that a high school girl is a bikini model? Yes. The fact that maids are sexualized to this extent and that she's doing this as like an odd little bonus for him? Yeah, that's problematic in its own way. But I do like that it's all deliberate. That Kana is the one in charge and she's doing these things because she wants to. That's something. That's something. I don't know if this is damning by faint praise, but it is something that I wanted to point out. As this series bends further and further towards typical fan service harem rom-com, we'll see if it can keep up at least this more progressive interpretation of it. Okay, I gave it a B- for the month. It is what it is, and there'll be more of it. I don't know. I don't know how well this series is doing. I mean, I would say compared to your fan service rom-coms of the past, the premise here is a lot more tame. And the fan service itself has actually been more tame, certainly than something like To Love Ru or anything else by Kenta-sensei. So I don't know. I don't know if it has the X factor to really get in front of people's minds. At the same time, there's like not really any competition in this genre right now in the magazine. So it might be able to just kind of coast on by with the pervs. Okay. Alright, let's talk about Hima-ten. This is a series that I was kind of down on for a while. I felt like it was getting very stupid, very fan servicey, very trite and uninteresting. But this last month, I think they started kind of pulling the ship around. I think the mode in which this series works best is just like cuteness. A cuteness around not being able to express your feelings, not being able to fully understand your feelings, feeling jealous, feeling flustered, feeling ambitious. You know, the positives and negatives of an uncertain crush. The more it can kind of hone in on that, and the less that it's about fan service and bullshit and whatever. And for the record, when we're talking about the different kind of the spectrum of fan service, I do think this is on the good fan service side. It's not on the pathetic fan service side. But even then, I think there's just other modes that the series is a lot better in. And a lot of them are on display this month. The date at the amusement park, it's just cute. I don't know, like, it's just a lot of cute moments, and some moments of sentimentality, and some moments of character depth and stuff. In general, I thought the character of Kana was, like, very blatant and uninteresting, but they enriched her a little bit. They brought out some depth with her. The stuff around their moms, and just sort of the embarrassment and awkwardness of meeting a girl you're into's mom, and just these kind of fun little situations that emerge during the parent-teacher conflicts. It's great. Cleaning Kanai's place, Kano-chan's place. It's great. It's great. I don't know, it's just nice. It's just cute stuff. And then in the latest chapter, kind of the inverse, he goes over and cleans her place, and then Himari is jealous, but she can't really put into words what makes her jealous, and she acts a little more bold and tries to make more of a connection with him because she's trying to resolve these feelings. I thought that was just really well expressed. I think it takes a feeling of jealousy. It doesn't blow it up into something unrealistic. It doesn't force drama out of it. But it just sort of explores in this nice little slice of life how those feelings manifest in like a really realistic, down-to-earth way. In a way that's like really cute. In a way that just makes the characters feel very endearing and likable. And not just sort of vehicles for fan service or drama. So yeah, I think the series has really regained a lot of footing for me. I think in this last month, they've really understood that a lot of that other stuff they were doing was unnecessary and actually kind of devalued the characters. It felt like they were going back to kind of the core of what made the series feel like it had potential in the first place. A cuteness. There's no other word for it than that. So we'll give it a B+. Definitely climbing back up in the grades. I hope we see more of this. I hope it just remains this very light, slice of lifey romance of just slowly kind of uncovering and unpacking your own feelings and acting on them. All right, Hima-ten, series that I've felt mostly positive about lately. It felt like it was kind of heading in a very stupid, fan servicey, harem-y direction for a while. But this latest month, actually pretty solid. Especially just on the grounds of like respecting the characters, fleshing them out, you know, really taking the characters' motivations and personalities seriously and not just having them as like an excuse for fan service or jokes or whatever. Um, yeah, like there was fan service this month. There's the beach chapter, a bath chapter, and our cover girl here it gets on a cover. She is literally a cover girl where she's in a bikini. It is what it is. But aside from that, and it's not even like again, I'm not against fan service. It is what it is. I understand its purpose, and I understand when it's done well or poorly, and it was fine. But the main thing is like, does it distract from the plot? Does it feel pathetic? Does it devalue our characters? And none of that happened, so it's fine. The chapter I really liked is when our main character's dad came back, and they kind of head-on confront the fact where he's like, hey, it kind of looks like these three girls are all interested in you. You should at least acknowledge that that's potentially true, or that it's true enough that if you started dating one of them, it might affect your relationships with the other ones. And it's like, yeah, that's not outrageous to say. It doesn't feel that contrived. And I like that they just sort of straightforwardly addressed that aspect of the series. And then it wasn't, he didn't like do a spit take and go, there's no way any pretty girls could be interested in me. But instead, he just kind of like seriously thinks about, okay, yeah, I have to like really be careful with my relationship with these three girls. It's like, that's nice, man. That's actually like mature writing. Then we had, yeah, this beach fan service stuff. The girls talk about though their crushes on him and their relationships with him, and again, it's like all treated maturely and seriously, which is good. Then you know this chapter where Kana comes over to celebrate her getting the cover. Very silly, very fan servicey. I think Kana as a character just isn't as well developed as the other two. They definitely were just like, oh, we needed a big boobs character. Oops, we forgot to give one of the characters big boobs. Here's a third character. But the latest chapter, which focused on the main character going to cram school with Kanai-san, that was nice. And sets up a genuine dilemma where two girls now have invited him to the fireworks. He doesn't really know what to do. It's all solid. It's all fine. We'll give it a B for the month. It hasn't delved into stupidness yet. It's held off on the stupid disease, which is very impressive, because normally one little injection of stupidity, one drop of stupidity is enough to completely derail a series forever, but not in this case. Well, let's talk about Hima-ten. This is a series that I've been kind of up and down on. Sometimes I say, oh, it's getting the stupid disease. And then other times it manages to stave off the symptoms of stupid disease for a whole month, which we did here. There's a very nice chapter where they go to the fireworks show. And this felt like... Am I Swedish? I'm gonna get some water. This really felt like it could have been building up to a confession moment. And part of me is like, if I was reading the series after the fact, and it runs for like 200 chapters, I would go, oh, obviously that's not going to happen. And there's like a rhythm to these sorts of rom-coms where you know that like the real decisive progress moments, like confessions and stuff, are still minimum so many chapters away because they just want to keep going and in perpetuity. But I don't know how well this series is doing. I don't know if it's succeeding. And, you know, for all of the big, long-running rom-coms I've read, there are dozens of short-running long rom-coms that I haven't even heard of, where the confession does have to happen in the first 50 chapters in the first year of serialization, because they don't have time to stretch it out any longer. So reading it week by week, it was kind of interesting to have that dynamic where I was like, oh, maybe they are actually going to go for it. They didn't. And then I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Did he actually fall in love with Hima instead? And he's going to go confess to Hima-chan? No, he didn't. But there was some really cute moments, and I was kind of caught up in the moment because I thought something like this might happen. And then there was a fun chapter where Hima-chan gets a kitten. Very, very cute. Really bonding moments between our MC and Hima. Hima really understands the scope of her feelings for him now, and it's like, oh, that's pretty good progress. In my mind, I'm kind of like, it feels like there's a lot of focus on Hima-chan right now. So I think probably if they're estimating, okay, the series is doing pretty well, but not amazing. It's not like To Love Ru, it's not like Nisekoi. We're gonna probably get like another year out of it, at most. I think they're gonna have big substantial arc with Hima-ten, our like main girl, our titular girl. Then major arc with Kano, our titular girl. And then basically at the climax of each of those arcs, they confess, but he's like, nah, I like somebody else. And then finally we have the final actual confession, good end arc. I think that's probably how it'll go down. But in the latest chapter, they kind of threw a curveball at me. They introduced a new character. She's a huge secret mega fan of Hina. There's various misunderstandings. It was pretty fun, pretty silly, but like with some kind of nice twists and turns. And I like this new girl. I liked her character. I liked her design. I think she'll have a fun role in the story. So now I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I have the scope of this all wrong. Maybe they actually are planning on getting into that real perpetual stage in rom-coms where they just have such an assortment of characters that they can just run forever. I don't know. We'll see. But I do think this series is like pretty solid in the fundies. Like the characters are good. They know how to do a cute moment. The art is really good. So if there was one that was just going to run to the point of annoyance and exhaustion, there are worse choices. We'll give it a B+ for the month. Pretty good stuff. Alright, next we got Hima-ten, which despite this very revealing cover, actually was quite cute and wholesome and nice this month. I feel like the stupid virus that infects a lot of Jump rom-coms has been pushed away, perhaps due to the positive influence of Blue Box and the receding influence of Sidcraft and Nue's Exorcist. Again, just taking the characters' feelings seriously and not making them into jokes and gag comedy fodder. So in the last month, we introduced a new character, this girl Terasaka, who becomes aware of this whole kind of secret crush situation, Hima having feelings for Imori. She herself is a super fangirl of Hima, but she's trying to keep that secret. It's a good little setup, you know. So we started off with a follow-up on that, where Terasaki is like trying to vet Imori as a potential suitor for her Oshi. She grasps this whole situation. There's more stuff with the little kitten. It's all very cute. It's all very nice. And again, they're treating Hima's feelings seriously, and they're kind of integrating them into her character in a way that feels honest and like compelling and interesting. And you want to see how she's going to kind of reconcile having the lifestyle that she has with her crush on Imori and her support of Imori's crush on Kanai-san and Kanai and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's a complex love polygon sort of thing, but they're really trying to be like, okay, how is she going to navigate that? It's nice. Then we start heading into a cultural festival arc where Kanai is recruited by her friends to do an idol show during the concert because she's so cute, but she can't sing. There we go. Great. Classic. They go around trying to promote the cultural festival in their little shopping street area. Very cute, fun setting. while discussing this idea, Imori and Kanai. She, of course, harbors a secret crush on him as well, which she does not know is actually reciprocated. And they're always trying to navigate this tension of wanting to compliment one another, but not really knowing how those compliments would be received. Which, again, is a little contrived and is like a rom-com staple of constantly regressing any potential progress. The characters not being able to get the words out can sometimes be very frustrating. But here I think it's just kind of dealt with honestly and sincerely, and with this very wholehearted approach of, well, yeah, that is tough. It's tough to put your feelings out there. Very nice, very nice. And then in the latest chapter, we get into the full swing of the cultural festival. Hasn't actually started yet, but it's sort of dominating the conversation with this idea that Hima should not stick out too much. She should not become a major spotlight because she's famous, because she has this makeup brand, and it would just create too much chaos at the cultural festival. Which, the characters kind of debate about whether or not that's fair, which I think in itself is fair. Like, that debate is fair, and it's kind of interesting to me. And basically now it's sort of like the roles are reversed, where normally Hima is this sort of glittering star, but now Kanai and Kano will be the center of attention, and she has to kind of play the role of just a supportive friend. So that'll be interesting. I think this whole cultural festival arc could be really good. I love cultural festivals. I just think the variety of things happening and kind of all the cliche scenes you can run through and all the climactic moments that can emerge. One of the best settings for an arc in Slice of Life. So, very excited for that. We'll give it a B for the month. Very solid stuff. Can't wait to see more. 10. Hima-ten, kind of decent this month. I've been kind of waxing and wavering on my feelings for this series. I think at some point it shows a lot of heart and shows a lot of respect for the characters. It's really focused on the interplay of very sensitive feelings and stuff, which is what I like in a rom-com. At other times it's very stupid. Very cliche rom-com stuff, fan servicey, wish fulfillment-y, just dumb. And I think most of the time it's going to be falling in between, somewhere in that spectrum. Here we had the cultural festival arc. That's something I was excited for. I always like a good cultural festival. I think it's just a very fun setting where you can have a whole lot of different stuff happening. Great way to kind of involve all of your cast. I think it went all right. Fun stuff of Imori's sister showing up. This whole fashion show mix-up thing that Kana has to go on with Imori. A little contrived, a little silly, but fine. They took it as an opportunity to really develop her character, though, like the complex she has around having a crush on him, but knowing that he spends a lot more time with the other girls and feeling like she's getting left behind. Sure. Then there was Himerin's focus, where she goes on a normal school festival date with Imori because she's not allowed to flex her celebrity status and draw a bunch of attention to herself. So instead, they just kind of go around and look at booths, and I think they do a stamp relay. It's fine. It feels a little hurried. It feels like they were just kind of like ticking the school festival boxes, which is, I think, better than not doing that, because that way you really do kind of reveal this whole like mode and stuff. But I feel like could have given that a bit more time to breathe and had more of an opportunity to explore Kana's feelings at different points instead of just having this like montage, and at the end she's like, this is how I feel about it. But they are really taking the character's emotions seriously, which is great. Then we have Kanai's turn. They all just have their turns. Her little arc is that she was performing as an idol. Very silly. They talk about how she had auditioned to be an actual idol as a kid and like made it past one round. But then she's like, I couldn't have never ever done it because I have a crush on someone, which is just very suddenly very revealing of all the grotesque nature of idol culture in Japan. But of course, it's not focused on that. That's just taken as granted. That's just taken as a fact of reality, as true as the ground we walk on, which is whatever. But yeah, she admits to Imori that she has a crush on someone, and I think her plan was to just straight up confess her love to him. But then a convenient interruption happens, of course. Someone shows up and she runs off, and now, of course, Imori is like, I don't know who she has a crush on, and Hima-ten tries to steal herself to... She realizes that she was talking about Imori, and all the pieces fall in place for her, and she's like, I gotta make my move soon too. So this kind of marks like a turning point where now this like misunderstanding, this ambiguity is in the air. And so far the characters I think have been like pretty smart, pretty emotionally intelligent. And it would be stupid if Imori goes like dozens of chapters without ever once considering and convincing himself that it's actually pretty likely that she was talking about him. I think they have to move decisively on this and have him come to that understanding sooner than later, because otherwise it's just very unrealistic and very tedious. And I think the series is better than that. Will it happen? I don't know. Time will tell. Time will tell. And then this idea of Hima-ten kind of stealing herself to make more of a major impactful move. I like the scene where she's feeling down on herself. She feels like she's maybe already lost her chance. And then she sees like a big billboard with her face on it. And she's like, who the hell do I think I am? I'm a girl boss. I'm the CEO of a company. I'm rich. I'm famous. I'm wealthy. I'm queen of the world. Why am I just conceding this? Why am I giving up? And I was like, yeah, right on. Like that to me is like what makes this series unique, is that that's one of our leading characters is the superstar. So like, yeah, that should be a factor. That should be a factor in her psychology at least. So I don't know. I wanna believe that this will go well. I wanna believe that they're gonna execute on this sensibly and have the characters respond with emotional intelligence and not be story convenient dunces for indefinite periods of time. But it definitely feels like a crossroads. And I think what it comes down to is, do they want this series to run for 300 chapters, like some rom-coms of the past? And if so, then yes, there is no ceiling in how dumb a character can be in order to delay a confession. Or are they content with this series running for maybe another dozen chapters or so, really exploring these things, having some conflict, having some confrontation, getting to the heart of everything, and having like a nice satisfying conclusion before things get so painfully tedious? And I hope it's the latter. But everybody likes to make money, and if you do the former, you'll make a lot more money. So we'll give it a B for the month. Nice stuff. A little underwhelmed by the school festival aspect, as I said, but not bad, not bad. Still has this absurd bikini cover. Just not super indicative of the series itself. Although there was one pretty lewd color cover spread too. So whatever. I don't know. Maybe. But, you know, I think overall this is still like a pretty nice series. And I use the word nice specifically. That it's nice to the characters. It's nice to the reader. It's not that rude. It's not that stupid. It's not that crude. It's not that obnoxious. It respects the characters' emotions. It allows you to actually form a connection with them. And this month was mostly the same. Starting with another chapter with Terasaki. Terasaki wants to go shopping for Hima's products. Goes with our MC for some reason. I thought it was nice. It seemed to kind of suggest that Terasaki might be the fourth girl. So far this series has stuck to the three-girl dynamic. Typically, I think it's a bad sign when harem rom-coms introduce a fourth girl. Not very many of them have been able to do it without really feeling like they're jumping the shark, without really feeling like the fourth girl is very flat. Although often the opposite of flat, if you know what I mean. Very one-dimensional, very much just kind of like a shot in the arm to try to get something else going in the series. And I don't think Terasaki is going to become that. But she does have like a little moment where she seems to kind of pine over Imori a little bit. And I was like, ah, geez. And then in the next chapter, another character gets introduced that I was like, is this the fourth girl, or in this case, fourth woman? And another hallmark of harem rom-com is to have the older woman love interest character, which I wouldn't say is necessarily a shark jumping sign, because a lot of them introduce this earlier than later. And often these characters actually get fleshed out quite a bit. Like in We Can't Study, I think is a great example. The student-teacher character that used to be a figure skater ended up being like the most popular character by like a mile. There's a popularity poll where not only did she get first with flying colors, she actually got more votes than any other woman character in the history of Jump, which is insane. And this character they introduced too, she's an idol. She's actually the idol that Kanai covered, that performed as at the Student Council Festival, which I thought was kind of a fun connection. I don't know what the hell role she's going to have in the plot. It looks like maybe she's going to go teach at their school or something. She's like done with being an idol. I assume she's going to like show up some more. I don't know. I don't know. She didn't show up again for the rest of the month, but whatever. But I was like, all right, this could be good. It also felt like very transparent and not really that interesting, very contrived, but whatever. Then it's kind of like, I don't know, I can't tell if this is going to end soon or not, because they're kind of making moves to introduce new characters, introduce new love interests, but then they also kind of have like the House of Cards in a perilous position where it's like Imori knows Kanai has a crush on someone. Hima-chan knows that Imori and Kanai have crushes on one another. Like the table is all set for a confession, and I think, knowing the series so far and giving the series some credit, I don't think they're gonna like draw it out and to like a totally agonizing dead end. It kind of feels like the momentum is there to just kind of bring the series into its climax sooner than later. So it's kind of like hedging their bets, because now it's sort of like Himarine is trying to make like a big move, and she's like trying to actively seduce Imori because she feels like she's going to miss her window otherwise. First, she does this ridiculous strategy where she decides to give him the cold shoulder to see if it like kind of draws him in. And it's like kind of mean. I think this sort of like tactic is really bad. It's like psychologically for yourself, for this person that you claim to care about. I think it's really manipulative and not good. And I thought that it was going to be like she is hurt by it and she regrets it. And she's like, I don't need the advice of these stupid magazines. I'm just going to be honest. But no, it works. He does get pulled into it and is stressed and worried about why she's acting so cold to him. And then she's like, oh, well, if that's how you feel, how about we go on a date? And it like, she gets what she wants by acting like a jerk. And I was like, that's bad. I don't like that. That feels pretty out of character for the series. That feels like they are stepping into like nonsense zone. The stupid disease is catching up. The stupid disease that they had managed to outrun for so long is nipping at their heels once more. But anyways, then they have the big date. They go to an aquarium and get some fancy food. It's nice. I like this Hima being assertive. She goes for like a big hug at the end. And I was like, this is good. They could have skipped this whole like baloney cold shoulder chapter and just been like, I need to be assertive. I'm going to take him on a date. And then just had this chapter. That would have been way better. So I don't know where this is going to go from here. It feels like Hima made her big play. So now something has to happen with the other girls. Probably Kana next. And then if it doesn't just like end with those kind of next round of everybody gets their chance moments, and they extend it and they do something else, they're gonna have to try really hard not to catch the stupid disease. I guess that's all I'll say. The stupid disease is knocking on the door like the Grim Reaper, in that meme. And all the other harem rom-coms are piles of blood. You know the meme I'm talking about, or do I sound like deranged right now? It's a meme. It's a meme, you dip. It's knocking on the door of Hima-ten right now, and I hope Hima-ten does not answer. At the same time, I do wish it dies insofar as that I would like it to just have a nice finale from here and end in like 10 chapters. I think that would be nice. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it's a B for the month. Let's talk about Hima-ten. We had a major focus on the new character, the older woman, a staple of Jump rom-coms. You gotta have your 3 main girls and then your older woman girl. And maybe throw a couple more in later, who knows. So yeah, she, as expected, turns out to be teaching at their school. As expected, she turns out to have like a hidden drunk slob personality that becomes a secret between her and the MC. As expected, she takes on the role where she kind of knows about these crushes and this love polygon of unresolved feelings, but as a wiser older woman, she is content to just kind of look on and go, ara, ara. As expected, as expected, as expected. This is how you write this kind of character. The fact that she's like a former idol to kind of fit in with the whole like showbiz aspect of the series makes sense to me, even though in the canon of the series it doesn't make any fucking sense. And then basically all of our main heroines get into a panic about her stealing away our main character Imori. It doesn't, like, I think this series is always teetering on the edge of stupid disease, whereas like Blue Box has proven itself to be on very firm footing. These guys kind of keep strolling over towards the edge of the big stupid cliff and whoa, whoa, whoa. almost fell off the edge of stupid cliff. And I think its worst tendencies are that in moments like this, it's like all of the main characters just lose their heads. And I suppose in a sense that's realistic, you know, teenage love, everybody's kind of stupid. The hell, even adult love, you get pretty stupid at times and weirdly insecure and jealous and stuff. But I don't know, it would be like one thing if it was that arbitrary, you know, like an authentic stupidity of the characters to panic. But instead it feels like very counter to kind of the ways their character have been established up until this point. It just seems kind of nonsensical. I don't know. Random moments of fan service, of course. Although the series overall has been pretty tame, this cover notwithstanding. Sometimes they just like throw it in very randomly and awkwardly. I think because it's not like a super fan service series, it feels all the more awkward when it becomes one. So yeah, I don't know. That was kind of like, oh boy, the whole jealousy over Himenono. But then some good stuff emerges from it too. She gives some advice to Kana about how to be more assertive, which felt good and not stupid, and just talking about, well, look him in the eyes. That makes more of an impact. It's like, that's true. And it's nice. And it's not like bad advice. They really lean into kind of like the awkwardness of her trying to be assertive. And it feels like actually real to her character as established up until this point. She's not just like running around like a chicken with her head cut off, but is being cutely assertive and trying to overcome things that she feels awkward about or scared about or whatever. It was good, man. It was good stuff. Of course, you know, it wouldn't be a harem rom-com without inexplicable roadblocks to characters just frickin' telling each other how they feel. Even though she was all ready to confess, now there's this weird roadblock that doesn't really make any sense, but whatever. Still good stuff. Then we have a Kana chapter, which was actually surprisingly low in fan service, even though they had the perfect opportunity of looking at bikini catalog books, you know, looking at Himenono's bikini release and like talking about it. They don't even show it, and I was like, wow, that's surprising restraint. But yeah, so Kana goes out to help him buy birthday presents for his younger siblings. They're twins. It's very cute, very nice. I don't know, pretty light, pretty insubstantial, but some nice moments of intimacy, a feeling of kind of like escalating closeness and physical affection. This is the stuff that the series is good at. and I think it can really stick to that level where it's not like mind-blowing, it's not amazing, it's not that emotionally resonant, but it's like cute and it's nice and it respects the characters and doesn't have them be like idiotic parodies of themselves. So we'll give it a B for the month. Not its absolute best. A couple kind of cringy, annoying parts. But it still is not falling off the edge of stupid cliff. It might still. I don't know. It's run for about a year now. There's a lot of rom-coms run for a lot longer and get a lot stupider than this. So we'll see if it can hold off those tendencies. Okay, next let's talk about Hima-ten, which peaks and valleys this month, I would say. And that is not a cleavage joke, haha. Starting off extremely weak with this whole situation with Hime Nono, their teacher, who's like a former idol, and how that's making our main three girls really jealous and insecure, which right off the bat I think is just kind of weak writing, you know? Like I think that's not the strongest this series can do in terms of kind of making their characters fleshed out, making their characters feel real and engaging and interesting, to just have this plot line of, wow, she showed up and she's so pretty, what am I gonna do? It's just very basic. And the start of this month had like a new low where Kana feels so jealous of Hime Nono, and it just leads to all of these like fan servicey situations of first looking at Hime Nono's risque photo book, and then Kana rips her top off and is like, look at me in a bikini though. It's just like really desperate on multiple levels. The desperation of Kano feels really kind of sad and out of character. Like they're kind of disrespecting her character by making her act like this. And it feels desperate on the part of the manga too, that it's like, whoa, hey, whoa, we're a fan service rom-com. Look, there's the girls in bikini on the last volume cover. And here, she's in a bikini all of a sudden right now. It's lame, man. Just so lame. This should be better than this. You can do better than this. Come on, guys. You can do better than this. You can do better than this. So that was very disappointing. And it's like, I think I'm not against, like, I've said it before, I'm not against fan service in general. I'm not against these sort of, like, lewd situation suddenly appears and attacks you almost. I think that's a foundational element of, like, the jump rom-com. But I think, like, you can make it more interesting, and you can make it feel more, like, intense, and you can really kind of bring out a quality of the surreality of it happening, and the MC feeling truly overwhelmed by it. Imori not just like doing the typical boobs, but like bring out something that has like an intensity and an intimacy, and I don't know, like it's been done better before, man. That's all I'm saying. It's been done better before. It wasn't done very well here. Okay, so then after that, great improvement. A little arc that I actually really enjoyed of Kana-chan, who's still main girl, really, goes on a trip to their middle school with Imori. Oh, and then there was a chapter with Yoshino, feeling anxious about the distance between her and Imori. Again, it's kind of fueled by like this jealousy and this insecurity based on Hime Nono. But she like takes action in a way that isn't stupid, you know, to try to get a little closer to him, to try to make herself present in his mind. I'm like, good, good. This is like caring about your characters and stuff. And then yeah, this trip back to middle school with Kana-chan, very sweet, very sentimental. Both of them harboring secret crushes on one another ever since back then, talking about their feelings back then. And then I think this was like a really great moment where, like, the mode of all of these harem rom-com protagonists is one of like near callous aloofness, where the prospect of the secret crush realizing their feelings is so unacceptable and must be avoided at all costs, and just like makes them act like automatons and assholes. And then the girl goes, "Am I just not getting through? Maybe he hates me after all." And it's very tedious, and I don't like that. And here, though, they took a great step where Imori recognizes, hey, in being so skittish about my feelings, in being so concerned of not overstepping my bounds with Kana-chan, I'm actually being kind of cold to her. I'm actually trifling with her feelings, even though I don't know what her feelings are. Even though I'm skeptical that she likes me as much as I like her, I'm still being rude by not treating her like a proper friend and putting this distance between us. And I was just like, damn, man, that's good. That's like a good revelation. That's like real, man. That's like real shit right there. It was good, man. And then they take it even further. It felt like a really kind of cool, transcendental, like, doubling down of that arc, where typically in a rom-com like this, that just sort of ends. And whether or not that, like, precipitates a change is TBD. But that's just kind of like that moment, and then cut to a chapter with Yoshino, or cut to a chapter with Kana, or whatever. No, instead, Kana has a double. That they hang out at Himinono's house. She's spurring them on in a way that I think is very cute, and nice, and is a good role for this sort of older woman character to be this type of, you know, instigator, but with good intentions. They make a promise to not tiptoe around each other anymore, to not worry so much about how things will be perceived, but to treat each other naturally, to treat each other like the friends that they are. That was really nice. And then they just have this like nice little intimate moment hanging out in Himenono's house while she takes a bath, fantasizing together of, isn't this kind of like we're living together? Isn't this sort of like we're living together in the same house? Getting all flustered about that prospect, but promising, you know, living up to their promise not to like back down from these things, not to be overly considerate of one another. This is really nice. This is really nice. So it's like redeeming itself. It's sometimes in a stupid mode. Every once in a while, it takes a swig of the stupid juice to get it through a month's worth of chapters, but they got a good heart. Deep down, I think they kind of know what they're doing. And I am overall enjoying the series. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how long it has. But I think this sort of just like cute harem rom-com is a jump institution, and there should be room for it. Because if we don't have something like this, and even if it gets a little fan servicey, you know, I think that's something it should have if it adds to it, if it's done well. If you don't have something like this, it creates a space in the ecosystem for frickin' Nue's Exorcist to jump in and pervert the whole idea of the harem rom-com with this light novel harem bullshit. I sound like a crazy person. Anyways, we'll give it a B for the month. Next, let's talk about Hima-ten. There's been more focus on the newest character, Hime-nono, the former idol turned teacher, plus kind of like older woman allure character. A chapter at the start where our main character teaches her how to swim because she has to run the gym class where the kids are swimming. She's insecure about not being able to swim herself, so Imori helps her out, and you think, oh, you know, that's a recipe for tons and tons of fan service. But no, actually, they keep it pretty constrained. which I appreciated. It didn't get stupid. Like, a little fan service is fine. Don't get me wrong. If I'm like trying to police all fan service out of a rom-com, that's a losing proposition. But it doesn't get in the way of the plot line here, which I think is kind of what you're aiming for. Like, you don't feel like the plot line is bogged down with just excuses to show the character in a bikini or whatever. It still feels unclear to me, like, what they're going to do with Hime no No's character. I think they kind of want this sort of, like, advisor who understands the whole love polygon situation and has the maturity of an adult and is trusted by the other characters and blah, blah, blah. But then, I think there's always a temptation to have her kind of be seen as a potential love interest as well. Even, like an obviously doomed one. I think people just get excited about that. It's another flavor of appeal. Even though they don't really think the series is going to end that way. Those characters often do really, really well. Like, the teacher character in Bokuben was far and away the most popular. One of the most popular, like, love interests in a rom-com and Jump ever, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know. I think they're gonna try to like hedge their bets with the Hime no No character and maybe try to get some of that appeal in there. But I don't think they're gonna get that stupid with it. It feels like if they were, it would have already happened. Then we move into this whole kind of arc around Christmas coming up. And where is Imori going to spend his Christmas? With who is he going to spend it? How is he going to make time for all these people that are very important to him? Which I think is like a decent setup, it's pretty cliche, but there's a reason. These kinds of scenarios, they consistently motivate some like moments of emotional intensity or whatever. I think there's a funny scene where he's like thinking of all three girls and moments of like closeness with them recently, and he remembers the scene where Kana like rips her shirt open. I was like, okay, like clearly there's something on your mind. Ultimately, he decides that he's gonna go clean at Hima's place on Christmas Day, but he wants to celebrate with each of them somehow. He goes shopping to get gifts for all three girls. Nice little chapter, running into different people, reflecting on the relationships he's built. They start to really emphasize again this idea that him working for Hima and cleaning her place is like a secret, and Kanai-chan doesn't know about that, and that's like a kind of a lingering plot thread that maybe she'll find out and see it as some sort of betrayal or something. I don't know. They haven't really like emphasized that very much, I think, over the course of the series, but it's coming back in focus now. Then they have full Christmas date chapter with Kanai, which I thought was really nice, really lovely, very cute. Again, just really focusing on the relationship. The gift giving, of course, is like a really easy way to just kind of show the characters' appreciation for one another, and then also like show the manga's appreciation for them as like full people. I assume we're just gonna get like 2 more chapters like this with the other girls. Sure. Again, putting focus on this like secret, which I'm sure will be kind of like the next major conflict. Although I'm not really sure how, because I feel like if people get like upset about this and it leads to some sort of like actual drama, misunderstanding, intensity, betrayal feelings, it feels a little cheap. It feels a little like disrespectful of the character's actual emotional intelligence. So I feel like there might be like some further twist that actually leads to like a legitimate misunderstanding or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's all like solid stuff. Your typical emotions of a rom-com. Nothing too crazy, but nothing stupid either. They're maintaining like good appreciation for the characters. They're maintaining the characters acting maturely and intelligently, and that's about all we can ask for. I'm gonna give it a B+. Just really nice, lovely chapters too. The sentimentality and stuff that really gets me. Now let's talk about Hima-ten. We're deep into Christmas season, which is very well timed for this reading audience. I like when manga does that. They do some consideration to when it will be published. Try to do some real world time matching or whatever. That's fun. Um, there's been this whole kind of like Christmas saga where he's gotten gifts for each of the three girls, and they're each gonna have like a little bit of a spotlight chapter where the gift is given and stuff. It starts off really weird where before they had a chapter with the very stereotypical like creepy convenient guys that come along and hit on somebody to move a plot line forward. One of the oldest cliches in rom-com history, right? One wonders in Japan, are there really actually just roving gangs of guys that go around hitting on girls? I mean, probably, but with this frequency, really? And then we find out that some kind of like background character classmates got dates with the convenient, creepy guys from before. Just like really weird to me to like bring them back and have this kind of extended plot line with them. I don't know if I've ever seen that before, really. So Hima and Imori go and spy on that date to make sure, you know, there's no foul play and they're not gonna try to make some unwanted advances or whatever. But then it turns out the date is like actually fine and they're not bad guys, which is weird. But a pretty fun chapter. I think they had a good time with this sort of spying and trying to interpret and getting all confused and flustered plotline. Some good comedy there. Then we get the actual Christmas chapter with Hima. I really like Hima's character, where she has this crush on Imori, but she recognizes that Imori likes Kanai, and that there's a mutual crush there that she doesn't want to get in the way of. And that she's like, I got my own shit going on anyways, I'm this girl boss CEO, blah, blah, blah. But that she cannot help but indulge in a bit of greediness in feeling special to him, in spending time together, in all these little moments and stuff. And that she struggles with, like, knowing how greedy she can be. Knowing that she already has so much, and that she already gets so much from their friendship. But not knowing where the line is. And I think that's actually, like, really well done. Really well understood. I know that's a feeling I've had before, where, you know, I have private feelings for someone that I know aren't reciprocated, that I'm just friends with. And I have opportunities to have these kind of, like, special moments with them, this increased intimacy with them or whatever. I felt the same way, that it was, like, greedy. That it was a little bit selfish to just kind of, like, push the aspects of our relationship that exist to sort of facilitate a fantasy of a relationship that couldn't exist. It's a very bittersweet feeling, and I like that the series doesn't really condemn it, but doesn't make it more than it is either. I think it's quite interesting that they kind of have her grounded in this understanding that she's, like, not his favorite, that she's not the one he has a crush on. It's all stuff that's, like, all too rare in rom-coms, like a real emotional maturity, a real respect for the characters themselves and their feelings. It was good, man. It was good stuff. Then we have a few chapters with Kana, her little gift arc. I think her character I've been most disappointed in throughout this whole series, insofar as that she's like the big boobs fan service character. So she gets a lot of just kind of like shoddy moments. It doesn't seem like they really care to expand her characterization that much beyond that. Sometimes they do, and then it always kind of like regresses back to like those sorts of jokes and stuff. But I thought these chapters were actually really well done. I think they were the best execution of this kind of character yet. The line she has is that she has too much perseverance. And he thinks that she's referring to her work, but really she's referring to her relentless attempts to kind of like flirt with him and to make him drop his guard and to move their relationship along a little bit. So they end up going on this like movie date. Pretty cute. I think there's a lot of nice little moments here. I think the series does these kind of date chapters really well, where they have, that it's not too fantastical. It's kind of just nice, grounded, fun experiences. There again, some more fan service that, the big moment that they're also celebrating is the fact that she got her very first magazine cover, where she's like a bikini model. So of course they have to read that together. But again, I think in the grand spectrum of fan service, putting aside the incredibly questionable ethics of having a high school girl as a bikini model in the first place, putting that aside, because that's Japan. I think this type of fan service where it's a character very proudly and excitedly showing off pictures of her in revealing swimwear is near the top in terms of like this proud, empowered fan service, right? I like the idea of it, that she's a little shy about it, like she's a little embarrassed that it's really happening, but she's also delighting in the fact that he's like a little flustered reading this stuff and like recognizing that she's having an impact. It's like, that's pretty fun. That's pretty fun. And then big confession scene. It still has this kind of risque stuff. It still has a little bit of fan servicey stuff, but they went for like a big sincere confession where she clearly expressed her feelings for our main character and didn't back down and didn't give herself an out. I was like, damn, man, that's good. This is definitely like the best execution of the character so far. I really like too that she calls back to like a fake out confession where she did reel the line back and be like, hey, just kidding. And be like, no, that time I freaked out and I took it back, but I actually meant it. And this time I'm just saying it. I was like, nice. But now she just gets to be first loser. This makes me think that the series might be wrapping up sooner than later. This does feel like the big finale arc for Kana-chan. Especially since she went last for all these Christmas little mini arcs and that hers was the longest and most substantial. Kind of feels like, that was her big climactic final arc. Now we're going to shift focus back to the other girls. And yeah, I could see this running for maybe like another dozen chapters or so, which would be just fine. I don't know. I've been liking this series overall. I think it has been very admirably fighting off its most stupid instincts the entire time. Did not succumb to a lot of the worst trappings of other rom-coms. But it was never like mind-blowing or amazing or anything either. And given that, I think it's better that it just sort of like executes everything, ends with a nice, solid finale, actually resolves things, and doesn't just putter along for 200 chapters faking you out every week. So yeah, R.I.P. to Kana-chan. Other girls built a little different. We'll give it a B+ for the month. Alright, next, moving right along into a much more traditional rom-com, Hima-ten, which I thought was actually very solid this month, really showing what I still like about this more kind of classic jump-style rom-com. He had just been confessed to in one of the first big bombshells of the series. He's reeling in the aftermath of that, trying to decide what to do. I thought there was a lot of good, like, emotional maturity on display there, which is a very strong suit of the series. The characters are never acting totally irrationally. And the pacing, I think, is pretty good, too. Like, it might sound insane that the first big confession in a harem series like this happens 70 chapters in, and you're like, wow, how quick. But if you look at other examples of rom-coms in Jump, that is actually pretty fast. So yeah, after this, we're going to head into kind of an arc that focuses more on Honoka, which makes me think that it might be kind of like the big finale arc. with her maybe finally gathering the strength to confess, or him realizing her feelings for him, or whatever. But I think, the big challenge of series like this is that you have kind of like your main girl, or maybe two main girls, and then you have however many auxiliary girls. Kana, being one of them, has her big confession scene first. Probably going to get rejected first. But I think the big feat that you're trying to pull off is, can you make the readers like root for her in that moment? And I really think they did. I found all of her stuff to be really endearing. Her cheekiness around this, the boldness she had in confessing, the fact that she's not apologetic about it, that she's not regretful, that she's not dooming herself and convincing herself that it's hopeless already. I just thought that showed a lot of respect for the character, and a lot of respect for the reader as well. That, like, we're not really expecting that the series is going to end with him getting together with Kana, but we are like being given good reasons to want to believe in that for a bit, which is a feat, which is, I think, a real feat in a genre like this. Yeah, really nice stuff. I thought the flashback kind of explaining more of his feelings around Honoka was really, really nice too. We'll also give it a B+ for the month. Very solid rom-com stuff. The stupid disease feels quite far away at this point. Alright, we're back. Now let's talk about Hima-ten. What happened in Hima-ten this month? I have to consult my notes. They had some nice stuff. It kind of seems like Hima-ten is heading to the end game as well. It's a lot of series that feel like they might end soon. A lot of series that I know for sure will end soon. This is going to be a rather large fluctuation point for Jump, I think. Because here, it seems like they have taken the step that a lot of these sort of harem rom-coms do, where they're gearing up for the ending, and the main character reestablishes that they are going to choose the girl you thought they were going to choose the entire time. It feels unnecessary. It feels maybe like a kick in the face to people that were cheering for some of the other characters, but I think it is also a good opportunity to just have some of the more like sentimental scenes of the series, an opportunity to, really reinforce kind of that core dynamic of the two leads. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, because this also reignited the Hima-ren offensive. The titular character also making her charge, the only one else who has any sort of shot. But yeah, this was mostly focused on his relationship with Honoka. This whole deal of the class trip that they weren't able to go on. They try to make it happen again, but then this time she's sick instead of he's sick, and he stays back to take care of her. Nice. And then another major plot development, Hima-ren makes him quit as her cleaner, so that she can pursue him wholeheartedly, knowing that it would be kind of weird and creepy to ask him out while he's working for her. So yeah, I don't know. I think they definitely are setting this up to be kind of like the end game little arc here. She basically gives him 1 month, his final month as her cleaner, for her to kind of get her feelings in order. I don't know what the heck will happen with Kana. I don't think Kana appeared at all this month. She kind of had her shot, and, alas. But I actually thought this stuff was pretty solid emotionally. It really respected the characters. It really leaned into the differences between Hima-ren and Honoka as characters, which I liked. It felt cute. It felt secure, They didn't feel like they were making big swings with fan service or other nonsense, forced drama, misunderstandings. The more cliche harem rom-com stuff that you bust out to kind of try to right the sinking ship. Instead, it does kind of feel like they are prepared for it to end. They're planning for a solid ending. They're not gonna, try to drag this out to like a Nisekoi type situation where it's just endless adventures in perpetuity and more characters getting introduced, which I can really respect. I think this series, although it had some stupid moments, managed to fight off the stupid disease quite admirably overall, and was overall quite pleasant. And I just really hope they can stick the landing, you know? Not back out, not kind of dissuade from this built-up momentum, lean into some of these more difficult moments where he really realizes that he has to choose, have some good confession scenes, and just have like a definitive ending where he asks her out and she says yes, and then we move on. Now, you might think that I'm already setting the bar too low. Why not have the series continue while they're both dating? That's all the rage now in rom-coms, to have a kind of a true ending where they've been dating for a while and then other progress happens. And that's just never going to happen, sorry. As much as I would like that, as much as it's been great in Blue Box, as much as so many other kind of modern rom-coms do that sort of pattern now, where it's not confess and then end, but confess and now kind of part 2 begins. I just don't think that's what's going to be happening here. I don't know, maybe they'll prove me wrong. I think the series is actually like decently popular, decently well liked among Japanese readers. The Tankobon's selling pretty well. So maybe they will actually continue in that mode, but I would be very surprised. I also kind of just think that Someone Hurts is eating its lunch right now. This is such a classic harem rom-com, a genre that I think has really sort of fallen out of vogue, and basically is now being competed with against the new species of 1v1 rom-com, which is like crushing it. Like, Someone Hurts is succeeding to a level that I never ever would have imagined. But in retrospect, does kind of make sense because it's a popular genre elsewhere, and you know, why not succeed in Jump as well? But yeah, we'll give it an A- for the month. I really enjoyed this stuff. Like I said, there's very little stupid things. Instead, it just was kind and respectful to the characters, and made me feel like they were gonna bring about a very satisfying ending. Next, let's talk about Hima-ten, which was moving in some pretty interesting directions. Overall, pretty positive stuff. She fires our main character as her cleaner, knowing that if they have this, you know, working relationship, she'll never be able to ask him out. She'll never really be able to truly pursue him, which I thought was great. That's a good acknowledgement. That's good emotional maturity or whatever. They go on this little festival date. I was a little worried because this is so obviously a date and so obviously like lovey-dovey that it felt kind of beyond the pale for him to be ignorant and oblivious or whatever. That felt like, you know, the stupid disease of the series kind of latching onto it a bit. But he generally still kind of walks the narrow path between oblivious enough to keep the series going, while still clearly kind of in his feelings and a little unsettled and unsure of what to do, because part of him is definitely recognizing the possibility, at least, that she's into him. So that's good, at least. There was a big pointless fan service moment, sure, whatever, stupid disease pathing through like a summer cold. You catch it occasionally. And then they have like a big exposed on social media moment. At long last, they play the card of Himarin being a celebrity and it being a big scandal if she was seen with a guy. This is something they had been hinting at since chapter 1. I felt like eventually they were going to have to play this card, and then they did. But then there wasn't really any fallout from it at all. I thought this would be like an arc, you know, of her seeing her popularity fall and in this sort of crisis and not really sure how she should navigate it and feeling bad about him and he might get exposed and harassed and, you know, all that sort of stuff I thought would be kind of interesting, but it really doesn't tonally fit with the series. And ultimately, they were just like, no, it's fine. Your fans think that this is your boyfriend, but they're cool with that. Which doesn't seem totally realistic, but I guess they had always been like, oh, Hima-ten is popular with the girls. Hima-ten is like an icon for other girls her age. So yeah, sure, I guess that's fine. And I like that they keep it light, you know? As interesting as I think it would have been to explore that other stuff, I do like that the series has never really gotten gloomy, has never really gotten self-pitying and despairing or anything like that. But it does add both just sort of like a little bit of fuel insofar as now she's like, wow, if he was my boyfriend, that would actually be okay with all my fans. If anything, that would make my fans even more excited. That makes me all the more in love with this guy, all the more motivated to make something happen. But it also adds a little bit of a wrinkle, too, where maybe now rumors start circulating that they are going out, that he needs to navigate, of course, with him having a crush on Kana-chan. So, or not Kana-chan, sorry, Kanai-chan? Honoka? Is she actually called Honoka, or does she just seem like a Honoka? So, adding, like, just a bit more of a complication in an interesting way, in playing something that they had foreshadowed, rather than just summoning up some BS to kind of stall things. It looked like the series was kind of wrapping up for a little while, because he was all prepared to confess, and we know that she likes him, so that would have been, you know, done and dusted. But it looks like they're trying to kind of add a bit more complications and wrinkles to keep something going, which is sometimes when these sorts of rom-coms get, like, really, really tedious. But like I said, so far they're kind of keeping it on the narrow path down the middle. So interested to see where it goes from here. We'll give it a B+ for the month. Really enjoying this one. I didn't know if I would or not, but outside of a few kind of stupid developments, they've been keeping it pretty good. Okay, now let's talk about Hima-ten, which I could see ending in like a month or two. It seems like they've really teed up all of the dominoes to start falling one by one. And, you know, you could look at something like Nisekoi and say the same thing, and then Nisekoi, at any point at which you say that, it runs for like another 3 years after that. That is the grand paradox of Nisekoi. Here, though, I think they've committed a little harder. They've started doing a few scenes that are a little more untake-backable. And I think they're doing, like, a good job of them, too. They're giving them the proper weight and significance. They're really caring about the characters. They're not doing a lot of the cliches of misunderstanding a confession and having to repeat a confession and convenient excuses to delay confessions and stuff like that. They might swerve in that direction and go for a misguided extension, but so far, no. They instead have been very forcefully subverting drama and preventing drama through communications, through people resolving to honor their own feelings. There's a line that I really liked, where he's considering maybe not confessing after all, because he feels like it's going to cause problems for everybody. And the line said to him is... Or wait, no, I think Kana is hearing this. Anyway, somebody tells one of them. I didn't make a note of it. You don't want the words you've held on to since middle school disappear without saying them. That's nice, you know? I'd say if anything, it's like maybe a little too drama-free. It's like becoming almost unrealistically drama-free, because stuff like the whole potential scandal of them getting photographed together, you know what, that's no problem. This whole idea that you're going to cause a lot of hurt by prioritizing your own feelings when those will inevitably cause conflict with others. They take the extremely emotionally mature approach of just like, well, sometimes that is how it is, and you just have to do the right thing anyways. Which I think is fair, but I think it also would have been totally fine to spice things up a little bit more. You know, it's like so many rom-com, the pendulum swings way too far the other way with just like forced drama and characters acting irrational and just complete nonsense. The pendulum is very, very far on the other side, but I think the sweet spot is maybe just a little bit more in the middle. But whatever. Nice stuff. Nice stuff. I also kind of like just the discussion of some of the fundamental aspects of a lot of rom-coms that often are just sort of like accepted as what makes series work, but aren't really ever discussed explicitly. For example, this idea that he had a crush on Kana before he met either of the other two characters. It's like unfair to them, right? In a sense. The hell just made noise? It's kind of unfair to them. Because how are they supposed to like win? And a lot of other rom-coms, they just kind of like don't really acknowledge this and act like, well, you know, it's plausible. He'll just change his mind on who he has a crush on. That was the entire thing that Nisekoi was pushing the entire time. Whereas here, they complain about it, and they're just like, yeah, it's just unlucky, and it sucks. If we had met him at another time in his life, or if we had met him and he just didn't happen to like this other girl or whatever, things could have been totally different for us. And I think that's a very real and fair thing to complain about, is just kind of circumstances in life like that, right? But then they get over it, too. They don't become, like, bitter incels. And they don't try to, like, sabotage things. And they don't do, like, we'll give him an amnesia potion and make him forget about Kana. Which, lesser rom-coms, they would go for something stupid like that. But yeah, I don't know. And then stuff around, like, Kana... I keep saying Kana. I meant... What's her name? I'm mixing up the names. I'm sorry. It's probably confusing. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? Kana is the younger girl. The booby girl. I kept saying Kana when I meant Kanai. Anyways, so Kana is the one that's already confessed to him that he doesn't have a crush on. That he actually rejects in these chapters. Which I think was also handled very, very well. And they just kind of have a very frank and honest conversation about all of this stuff. And, like, you know, the awkwardness of having romantic feelings for somebody that only sees you platonically. But could we still be friends? And talking about all these other hypotheticals. And do you think you would have liked me under those circumstances? And blah, 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 blah. Like, there I kind of liked it because it had, like, a very realistic sort of selfishness on her part, where she just needed to know these things. And on his part, too, a realistic sense of just wanting to navigate this very cleanly and definitely having some sorts of feelings for her. Definitely a feeling of attraction or whatever. But also ultimately knowing that he needs to, like, let her down. I don't know. I feel like it grappled with the full complexity of that situation, while still having all the characters act very emotionally maturely and sensibly, without any forced drama or whatever. And yeah, now it kind of feels like we've finished the Kana route, and it was way better than I could have expected, because I thought that character was just going to be fan service. And now we just have the final two girls, and we're going to get little arcs for each of them. And yeah, I would say maybe 2 months out from a finale, which is great. I'm all for it. A rom-com that runs around 100 chapters and has just great arcs and doesn't feel like it's just repeating itself over and over and over again. Isn't doing all sorts of tedious stuff to extend its runtime. More of that, please. I absolutely love it. Okay, so we will give it a B+ for the month. Really, really solid stuff. Next, let's talk about Hima-ten, which is indeed wrapping up sooner than later. I'm not surprised. I had talked about this last month when I was kind of ranking everything based on how long I thought it would last, that I could really easily see Hima-ten wrapping up in kind of like the next big arc. And sure enough, the creator of the mangaka said in some interview or blurb or something that the series was approaching its climax, which is great. Because let me tell you, nothing sours a rom-com like bonus rounds and fake-outs and coming up with every single way to delay the inevitable, to delay the confession, and milk it, milk it, milk it, milk it. Here it seems like they genuinely just want to tell a good story, wrap it up at maybe like chapter 100, big confession chapter, whatever. Nice. It's like crazy untoxic. I'm just so impressed with the emotional maturity on display from all the characters here, that they don't go for the route of forced drama, that they never take a route of misunderstanding. This whole plotline of Kana confessing to him and him rejecting her, I think many lesser rom-coms would have just like relished in that and had to have had some grand forgiveness arc of her spiting him and him feeling terrible and trying to bring it around and blah blah blah, and then the ultimate conclusion would be like, well, if you really want to make it up to me, you have to consider dating me again. You have to undo your rejection. Okay, you are no longer rejected. I will consider dating you again, and I won't confess to Kanai for another month and a half. You know, it's just this nonsense, and they don't do any of that. She gets over it. It's really nice. Then we have a little Yoshino arc, Himarine arc. I really like all of the reminiscing and stuff there. Again, really feeling like they're building up to some big climax and conclusion. Very good. I like, too, that he begins to recognize the depth of his feelings for her. That he starts to catch himself realizing that he had never been treating her just like another client or just like a classmate, that there was always something special about it, and that he has to kind of put a name to it, and he has to recognize what it is. Does he actually have a crush on her too? And if so, what the hell does he do about that? And then I really like how he just kind of like sorts through them and kind of recognizes the difference between romantic love and like friend love, and concludes that they are different, and that if he's going to confess, it should be based on romantic love. And I was like, whoa, they're like investigating this stuff, you know? And it's nice on two layers. One, because I think, you know, when you're first trying to date and stuff, these are the kind of questions you really maybe struggle with. I know I certainly struggled with trying to figure out the difference between just very strong friendship and love, of the romantic variety. Because you can love your friends. So it's like, what's the difference? Is there a difference? Does there need to be a difference? And not only do I think it's just kind of nice to give readers a chance to pause and reflect on this and think about their own lives and stuff, but just as like a way to kind of navigate through rom-com tropes, I think this has given a guidebook for all other rom-com writers, because so many of them, this would only be figured out by the characters in like post-hoc, and you can be like, oh, well, that's more dramatic, you know, he didn't realize what the difference was until it was too late. But it's really more just annoying, because it's like you are trying to get across to the characters this idea, and all of their suffering is because they just haven't latched onto this idea. It hasn't occurred to them, this idea that there can be friend love and romance love. And it's like, again, just kind of the emotional maturity, trying to tell a story where the characters aren't freaking idiots. They've all avoided the stupid disease. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And then all of this kind of comes as an epiphany to him as he's having a really lovely date with main girl Kanai, or I guess secondary girl Kanai, whatever, his crush. They go on this really nice date where they decide to alternate using her camera to just take pictures of stuff, and they're just looking at what the other one chooses to take pictures of, and ultimately, of course, they take pictures of each other, and it's very cute. Very cute. And I thought, what a great date idea. You know? I don't know. Don't you think this is a nice date idea? You go out on like a photography date. I think it's just like, it really reveals your aesthetic preferences and what you look for in the world, you know? I don't know. I was like, damn, this is good advice. I'm gonna go to our dating. Got a new date idea for you. I learned it from manga. I learned it from shonen manga. Figure out which one of the two of you has the nicer camera, and then take turns using it, one picture at a time. go around the city, look for spots you like, and then in the end, look through all your pictures together. I think that's a good way to learn about somebody. Maybe not even just a romantic date. That's a good friend date, too. Anyways. Nice stuff. Nice stuff. Again, it's going to wrap up soon, I'm sure. So I'm just excited to see how they do it. Because I right at the start, I was like, oh my god, it's another rom-com. There's multiple girls. Is it going to succumb to the stupid disease? Is it going to be fan service? Is it going to be forced drama? Is it going to be constant confession baiting? And every once in a while, they oh, I'm catching the stupid disease. I think I'm catching the stupid disease. I really got it this time. But no, it was just like allergies. It was just hay fever. And they're cured of the stupid disease, and they keep going. Anyways, A minus for the month. Canonically. If you're tracking the rankings at home, it's supposed to be an A minus. Alright, now let's talk about Hima-ten, which is definitely heading to the conclusion, which I think is great. I think it had a good, solid run. Didn't overstay its welcome. Didn't get to a point of endless retreading stupidity, and thereby skated right past a lot of the problems other rom-coms and jumps have, like, completely drowned in. And these kind of final climactic arcs do feel like they've got the significance and weight that I would want from something like that, from the big climax of a romance. Really nice. He goes over to Honeka's place to study. She gives him a letter and says, hey, I don't want you to open this yet because I know you've got a lot going on. But when you get a chance, after, you know, this, and this, can you please read this letter and really, like, respond to it? So, obviously, this is a confession letter. Even he, with the thickest of MC skulls, realizes it's a confession letter, which is great. We all know what it says. Imori is doubting himself and second-guessing, but has a good idea of what it says. But now he is still just kind of in conflict because he can't quite figure out what his feelings for Himurine are. So Himurine as well understands that Honoka likes him, that she's planning on confessing to him, that they will end up as a couple if she doesn't do anything, and is also very, very conflicted with him, with that. She feels like the time we spend together has to mean more than that. As she puts it, that she is also unsure of what relationship they currently have or what relationship she would like to have with him, but she feels like she's got to make one last effort for her own sake. I like all of that, too. I like that. I don't know. Then there's a whole chapter where, for the first time ever, it really gets into her job as, like, model slash influencer slash CEO of a makeup company aimed at teens, showing, you know, the juggling of everything. The format of the chapter was nice. I like the kind of thoughtfulness around the character, but the lionizing of her, like, girl boss lifestyle I found a little distressing. Like, she is just a kid. She should not be living this way. But whatever, it's just manga, it's just fantasy. It's kind of fun. And I also think it's very weird that they waited so long to have this sort of chapter, which is something they acknowledge in the text, that Imori is like, damn, man, I never saw what her life was really like. This whole time, we'd been so close, and yet I have totally underestimated how much you are taking on. And I just kind of felt like, what a wasted opportunity, maybe? But the fact that in-universe, Himurine is also feeling like, what a waste that I only told him this now, I only showed him this now. I don't know, it was, like, interesting. Then they have this whole thing where he's gonna do the final cleaning, and this is being photographed and stuff for a photo book she's putting together that just kind of, like, is a glimpse behind the scenes of her entire life. In this, she really tries to recontextualize their relationship as purely professional, but deep down she knows it isn't. Deep down he knows it isn't. And at the last moment, he comes back because he goes, I don't think either of us can leave it like this. So, I don't know. And then she acknowledges, like, you know, I'm doing my entire professional life is for girls like Honoka. So if I betray her and cause her to experience this heartbreak, and I go off with Iemori, how can I possibly be happy with myself? How can I possibly be happy with my work or whatever? So I don't know how they're going to maneuver this exactly, because I think Honoka's going to win. But I am very curious how they will maneuver through this of Hima and Iemori recognizing that they have feelings for one another that are beyond professional, beyond friendship even, that do have some element of romantic love. And I am interested because I have faith in this series, because this series has managed to stave off stupidity for so long. I think they'll actually do a good job, which is a great feeling, because a lot of rom-coms would not. So we'll see. I think it'll wrap up probably in the next few months, and I'm looking forward to it. Give it a B+ for the month. Hello, hello, what is up? What is good? It is July 1st. Happy Canada Day. That also means that June has come to an end. Another busy month for me, and a busy month for Weekly Shonen Jump. We had 3 new series start, 1 series end, and 1 series return from a long hiatus. That means a lot to cover for me, so I think we shall just jump right in and first talk about the series which finished. That is Hima-ten. This is, I think, the longest series that we have actually covered from start to finish, month by month in these videos. If you go back to July 2024, you can see me discuss the first 3 chapters of Hima-ten, and we discussed all 93 chapters after that together as well. I was always optimistic about this series, but cautiously so. It's a very pure rom-com, unlike, you know, Blue Box and Someone Hurts that have a competition element to go alongside the rom-com. This one is really just entirely focused on the relationships of the characters. You know, there's some stuff around like modeling and house cleaning and being a girl boss as a high school student. But those are all fairly insubstantial and just kind of there to motivate the relationship plot. This is a genre that can have some pretty high ceilings, but some really, truly, brutally low floors. I think when a rom-com starts to get tedious, when it starts to drag things out with, like, botched last-second confessions, miscommunications, forced drama, if you will, or start introducing just, like, an endless parade of new potential love interests, it can get pretty bleak. It's also a genre that often has some sort of like fan service element, whether that's just, you know, panty shots, boobies, things like that, or kind of more emotional fan service of just the heroines acting cute and, you know, endearing to the MC, who is just a proxy stand-in for you, the reader. A lot of like really low points. And I think right from the start, my optimism for this series was not really that it would do anything in particular, but that it would just avoid the worst trappings of the genre. And I'm happy to say it really did. It managed to stave off the stupid virus almost entirely. There was, you know, a few moments of really blatant fan service that didn't really feel in character or, you know, within the tone of the series. There's like a couple kind of misunderstanding, forced drama type plot beats, but for the most part, all the characters act like really reasonably, with a lot of emotional maturity. They act very consistent with their goals, with their stated beliefs and stuff. I was really impressed. It's like a very mature series in a lot of ways. Um, I think, although that it's definitely its greatest strength in avoiding all those downfalls, it was almost like too reasonable. It was so like non-toxic and smooth sailing that it almost lost opportunities to become a little more compelling, to become a little more memorable. There would be these plot developments that seemed like, you know, the characters would have to face a crisis, but because, you know, the entire universe in which they live has this feeling of emotional maturity and being reasonable, these things just sort of peter out as soon as they're brought up. I'm thinking specifically of like Hima-ten is a celebrity, and oh my gosh, a fan took a picture of her with our main character. Oh my gosh, oh no, the fan base is gonna turn on her because she's impure or whatever. And then it's like, your fans are actually really supportive. They get it. And guess what? All of your friends and acquaintances and stuff didn't misunderstand the picture at all. Nobody is spreading rumors about you. And it's like kind of refreshing because, you know, that sort of misunderstanding and fan backlash and getting scorned by people at school and blah 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 blah, that would be like pretty tedious. But the pendulum swings so far back the other way that that plot beat just doesn't feel like it even exists, you know? Like the outcome of the series is basically the same whether or not that happens. But yeah, so it wrapped up. I also really applaud it for actually just wrapping up and not belaboring it and not, you know, drawing out like a million steps before the confession or whatever. Instead, we get the most typical type of rom-com finale. We have our secondary girl, Hima-ten, confesses. I liked how that went. They have, you know, your typical sentimental montage of all the big moments they shared together. I like her framing of it, that she's like, listen, I already got a lot out of this relationship. You not returning my romantic feelings doesn't diminish, doesn't undo, doesn't, you know, make all of those wonderful feelings of friendship count for nothing. In fact, they've already counted for so much that I've kind of had my fill. Now I'd like to see you go on and make the woman you love happy. Which is nice. And I again, like, very, very emotionally mature. Then we see her crush on him, Honoka, the letter that she wrote, all the diary entries that she cites, talking about when she first developed this crush. I kind of like her framing that it's just a low-key crush. Her first love that kind of just blossomed out of nowhere and was just sort of this small but growing sense of appreciation and interest in this guy. And it makes sense. I like, you know, a lot of these rom-coms, they make the MC so bland and so just readily self-insertable that it doesn't really make any sense for any of the women to be in love with him. But in this chapter that's very, very focalized from her perspective, like, you get why she thinks he's cool. You get why, you know, she feels intrigued by him and wants to learn more about him and stuff. Really, really good. And then, of course, the big confession scene. They don't fuck it up. There's no last minute crises or anything like that. It's very, you know, by the book, but in a way that's kind of refreshing, and that they didn't feel the need to subvert anything. And then she hits him with like a surprise kiss afterwards, which is pretty bold for a rom-com like this. Typically, you know, there's like 18 steps somehow between mutual love and agreeing to date and any sort of actual physical intimacy. So that was like a pleasant surprise. And yeah, ultimately they just managed to portray this entire relationship without really anything stupid. There's a couple of stupid elements with Himari, there's a few stupid elements with Kana, but main girl Honoka manages to just get very idealistic, very lovely mutual first crush. And that's basically it. There's a little bit of like wrapping up and stuff. The news that they're dating spreading around the school and other characters' reactions and all of that, which is nice. Not like really overly indulgent, but just sentimental and kind. And then they do a little time skip where we see everybody 5 years later. They're still, of course, head over heels in love, and everybody else's life is going great. Not really too interesting, kind of insubstantial. I kind of wish they had spent maybe a whole chapter post-time skip or something like that. Just rearranged things a little bit so that we could spend a little bit more, saying goodbye to the characters. I'm also surprised they didn't try to push it for the big 100. As much as I applaud the very brisk and efficient and non-time wasty sense of progression in this series, I think it would have been okay to indulge a little bit right at the end. Indulge in some sentimentality, indulge in a couple chapters of them dating, and get to the big 100. But I suppose there's also considerations of, like, trying to get the chapter count to fit neatly into tankobons. But whatever. Yeah, really good stuff. Managed to not be stupid. Managed to not have dumb misunderstandings or last-minute additions of other potential love rivals. It stuck to its guns, it stuck to the basics, and in doing so, I'm left with a very, very positive sentiment towards it. We will give it an A for these final 3 chapters, and let's look forward to Genki Ono Sensei's next work. I don't know if they're going to kind of stick to the rom-com mode, but their art was always really fantastic, and I think they've got a good sense of sort of the poeticism of life in a way, just capturing small moments, capturing moments of appreciation, of serendipity, of the beauty in the day-to-day that I think just makes for a great manga in a variety of genres. So I'd like to see, some slice of life or even kind of a low-key competition series or something. They could do a lot. Okay, now let's move on to the new series.